Hey everybody, welcome to our Wednesday night virtual Bible study for November the 11th. That means we're closing in on Thanksgiving. I'm really excited about that. That's one of my favorite holidays of the year. I love being with family and friends, sitting at the table, eating a great meal, um, and just enjoying time together. Whatever that meal consists of, whether for you it's a hamburger and fries, or whether you do turkey and all the fixings, whatever you do for Thanksgiving. I mean, for me, it's just sitting around with family and playing cards and just having a great time and snacking on some tasty food, whatever that is. Whether you do Little Caesars pizza or you go all out, it doesn't matter. It's all about family and friends being together. And I think this year, with everything that's happened, I think there are a lot of people who are really excited to just kind of unbutton the top button on the shirt and just sit back and relax and enjoy some family time. I know I'm looking for that. Got about 2 weeks, maybe 2.5 weeks left before Thanksgiving, so super excited about that. But that means this year is drawing to an end. Maybe you're glad. Maybe you're glad 2020 is on the way out and you think 2021 is going to just reset and magically make everything better. I hope you're right if you believe that. I hope 2021 is a much better year for everybody. And crazy year we've had. Hey, we've been studying angels and demons, and I really appreciate the fact that in this format you've been tuning in and checking us out, especially when in some instances we've not been able to meet in our building. And so we have two formats. I'm not sure what you're watching us on because the video is airing not just on Facebook, but it's on our YouTube channel as well. So here's what I'd like for you to do at the very beginning as we start. If you are on Facebook, like the video. You have a little thumbs up button. Give us a little thumbs up. Let us know that you appreciate what we're doing. And click the share button and share the video so that your friends can see this on your page, on your Facebook timeline, and they can equally like and share the video. And we'd love to get it to as many people as we possibly can. If you're on our YouTube channel, if you'll look right below the video, there's going to be a little bar down there. It's going to have some options. Number one, if you'll give us a thumbs up, right? Give us a thumbs up on the video. And right below the video, you'll see a button that says subscribe. If you'll push subscribe, it will, as we add new videos, it will give you an identification, a notification that a new video has dropped on YouTube. Now, what this does, as we gain viewers, it gives us more publishing options for our videos, and we would love to have that. It's not monetized. We don't make money on the video. This is paid for. It's sponsored by the contribution from the congregation at North Hamilton, so it's of no charge to you. We're not making money off the video, but those publishing options would be a great thing. We especially, we're trying to expand our social media presence, and we would very much love to have some of those options. All right, so angels and demons. We've been studying angels and demons. We're through with angels. We finished that a few weeks ago, and now we're looking at demons. And last week was our introduction to the subject of demons, and now we're taking a look at part 2 of that introduction, where we were talking about demon possession. Demon possession. And last week we spent a few minutes going through looking at some of the physical characteristics, the ailments that often beset the victims of demon possessions. And I left you with a question at the end of last week's video, and the question was this: why did God allow demon possession? Why did He allow it? And here, I'm going to give you my think so on this. And I think I stand on good ground. And if you have a different opinion, you can come. I've had some phone calls this past week with the last video, and I've loved talking to people about this and been able to connect with some dear friends I haven't talked to in a long time who've also been watching our video. I feel so blessed that we're connecting to people this way. So if you have some input, call and talk to me. Glad to have it. Here's what I think. When it comes to demon possessions, demons were allowed to possess people in the first century for the specific purpose of being able to be cast out by Jesus to show His power over demons. And the same would be true with the apostles when they did the same thing, or other inspired people, other miraculously endowed people in the first century. But I think it was allowed to show the power of God over demons. I think it was specifically for that purpose. And I want you to follow me for a second. Let's take a look at this together and see if we can reason through this. During the ministry of Jesus, Jesus would show his power over a number of things. And if we start dividing them up, it sort of becomes this, they're representative of everything of which a person, if he's omnipotent, would have power over. So one of the areas that Jesus had power over and showed his power over was over diseases and physical ailments. Now, you may be thinking of some instances already where Jesus healed somebody with a physical ailment. Let's just take a look. Matthew 9. My Bible is open in Matthew 9. And if you will, in Matthew 9, just as an example, verse 20. Would you turn to verse 20? Suddenly a woman who had a flow of blood for 12 years came from behind and touched the hem of his garment. For she said to herself, if only I may touch his garment, I shall be made well. But Jesus turned around, and when he saw her, he said, be of good cheer, daughter, your faith has made you well. And the woman was made well from that hour. I would even direct your attention in the same passage back at the beginning of the chapter, verse 1 beginning, one of my favorite miracles, where a paralyzed man is dropped through the roof tile of the house. They remove the tiles. The opening is there. He couldn't get in because of the crowd below, and his friends grabbing the four corners of the blanket, the mat he's on, they take him up. They lower him through directly in front of Jesus. Jesus not only forgives the sins, but he heals the man to prove his power of the forgiveness of sins. A magnificent miracle. And then you got the book of John, and you've got six or seven major miracles presented in the Gospel of John, like the healing of the blind man in John 9, the walking on the water, all of that. But these are miracles, the healing of the blind, the healing of the lame, the healing of the paralyzed, the healing of the woman with the issue of blood. All those show his power over diseases and physical ailments. So there's no question that Jesus is more powerful than whatever physically ails people. Here's a second category. Jesus showed his power over physical objects. Physical objects, things that are tangible, things of the world, created things. One would be John 2. Remember the story in John 2 where they run out of the wine they're drinking? And that's not the same thing as today's alcoholic beverages, so please do some study on that. Jesus wasn't endorsing the drinking of, intoxicating beverages in that passage. But they're drinking the wine. They run out at the marriage feast, and he takes water and turns the water into wine. Amazing what he does. In Matthew chapter 14, right? In Matthew 14, Jesus in Matthew 14, you hear that motorcycle? That guy has been plaguing me all morning long. Matthew chapter 14, and we're not very near the road. We live kind of out in the middle of nowhere, so he's got to be really revving it up to hear that on the camera. Matthew chapter 14, if we were to start in verse 15, and if we drop down through verse 21, if you'll read that passage, Jesus takes some bread and some fish, a little of both, and miraculously turns it into enough to feed potentially 15, 20 or more thousand people, because you've got 5,000 men besides the women and the children, so you're talking thousands and thousands of people. So Jesus demonstrated his power over physical objects. He also showed his power over nature. He showed his power over nature. He did that in the same chapter, Matthew 14, beginning in verse 22, when he walked on water. I can't walk on water. If I step on water, I sink. That's just how water density works. It is impossible for a person heavier than water to walk on water. It can't. But Jesus did, because he showed his power over nature. And he did that in many other instances. Another would be Matthew chapter 21. In Matthew chapter 21, if we drop down in verse 19 of Matthew chapter 21, He saw a fig tree by the road. He came to it. He found nothing on it but leaves, and he said, "Let no fruit grow on you ever again." And immediately the fig tree withered away. And that's an amazing miracle. You ought to study that. We don't have time to do it today, but that's an amazing miracle. What happens between his journeys in and out of Jerusalem and the fig tree? Just an amazing miracle, and the things it would teach us in that moment. But he showed his power over nature and did that on so many occasions. One, not just the walking on the water, but at the end of that story, remember there was a storm, and he just cried out, "Peace, be still," and the storm immediately stopped. He also showed his power over death, and we're certainly thankful for that on the occasions he did, including his own. But remember John chapter 11? He gets word from Mary and Martha that Lazarus is sick, nigh unto death, and he delays his coming. Lazarus dies, and by the time he gets there, Lazarus has already been dead a few days. So Jesus shows up a few days after Lazarus is dead. There's no question that Lazarus is dead. He's already been buried. And Mary and Martha both, they're just devastated. And Jesus even, he's torn up by their reaction. He's torn up by the death of his friend. And in John 11:35, Jesus, he loses it too. Jesus was an emotional fellow. He's not just a God in the flesh. He was flesh, right? So he had both the God side and the humanity side, and so he experienced human emotion, and it came gushing out. As a man, he lost it. He was just weeping, crying, sobbing in that moment, and yet he calls for the stone to be removed and cries for Lazarus to come out, and Lazarus comes out. And when he does, he proved his power over death. So think about this now. Jesus has proven his power over physical ailments and disease, over the body. He proved his power over physical objects, things of the earth, grapes, water, power over whatever it was, fish, bread. It's just proof that he has power over anything. He showed his power over nature. He showed his power over death in John 11. So it would only be natural that there would be a need to prove his power over the forces that were unseen. Right? If there are unseen powers like angels, demons, things of that sort, it would be necessary for Jesus in his proving to people that he is God in the flesh, that he would prove his power over demons. And I believe that's exactly why it happened. In fact, that's why he says that it happens. If you'll turn with him Matthew 12, turn with him to Matthew 12. I like in Matthew 12 the healing of the demon-possessed man beginning in verse 22. Of all the accounts of demon possession, I mean, they're all significant. No, I'm not trying to undermine or make insignificant any of them. I like this story. I don't know why it connects with me in a certain way, and I really like the story. I like what happens. I like the conversation that follows. I like the teaching that follows right behind it. It's just a very pivotal, powerful moment between Jesus and the Pharisees, because it really ends up being that. One opportunity is a means to another. So he heals this man, but it opens up the door to be able to converse and debate the Pharisees. And so in verse 22, here's what happens. One was brought to him who was possessed with a demon, right? And he was blind, couldn't see, and mute. And he healed him, so that the blind and mute man both spoke and saw. And all the multitudes were amazed. So he's proving something to the multitudes. And they said, "Could this be the Son of David?" See what they're doing? By what he did, he's opening up a door of belief for those people. He's confirming what he was trying to say and what he was saying, that he's the Son of God. And now could it be? He's been saying that he is, and now he must be, because of what he's just done. The power over unseen forces, the power over demons, he's got to be the Son of God. Now watch. When the Pharisees heard it, they weren't happy. They said, "This fellow does not cast out demons except by Beelzebub, the ruler of demons." But Jesus knew their thoughts and said to them, "Every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself will not stand." Watch. And if Satan cast out Satan, he's divided against himself. How then will this kingdom stand? And watch carefully, verse 28, if I cast out demons by the Spirit of God, surely the kingdom of God has come upon you. Or else how can one enter the strong man's house and plunder his goods unless he first binds the strong man? Then he will plunder his house. You see what he's saying? What I just did is proving to you that the kingdom of God is here. I'm getting ready to establish my church. I'm getting ready to establish the kingdom. I'm telling you that the king is now here. And so by casting out demons, it was a form of proof that he had that capability. I have the ability to bind the strong man. I have the ability to do that. I am the Son of God. I am truly the Son of David, as you believe that I am. So I think it just fits. When he showed his power over everything, he also showed his power over demons. He's proving his superiority by doing that. And when Jesus confronted demons, we see that doing in his interaction, that he had the power over them. Stay in the book of Matthew. Go back with me to Matthew chapter 8. Matthew chapter 8. And if you will, drop down with me to verse 16. Matthew 8, verse 16. And it says, when evening had come, they brought to him many who were demon-possessed. And he cast out the spirits with a word. All he did was say, you need to leave. You are out. And they didn't have a choice. They had to obey the will of Jesus. He's the Lord. They had to do that. In the same context, in Mark chapter 13, in a very similar way, of this ability of the Lord, in Mark chapter 1, rather. You get to Mark chapter 1 and drop down to verse 34. Then he healed many who were sick and with various diseases. He cast out demons, and he did not allow the demons to speak because they knew him. So here they are. They get ready to make a response, and Jesus says no. And they have to obey the will of the Lord. So all of this, all of the demon possession that we see, and remember last week we made the point that you don't really see demon possession. I don't know of a single instance where it occurred in the Old Testament. You have references to demons, but never demon possession. And so demon possession seems to be a phenomenon that was limited to the first century. It really does seem to be a phenomenon that was limited to the age of the miraculous with this specific purpose for Jesus Christ of him showing his power over them, because he's always rebuking them, silencing them, casting them out. This was all a way of Jesus to prove that he did that, because they wouldn't be able to just do this on their own. Remember the story of Job? Satan wanted to afflict Job, and God had to give him permission to do that. These demons weren't acting, it may have been their desire to do this, maybe under the headship of Satan. Satan's the one directing them to do these things, but they could not do that if God did not allow it. So why did he allow it? There had to be a purpose. God is not arbitrary in the things that he does. There's parsimony, there's reason, there's a divine logic to everything that God does. There had to be a reason, and it seems the reason is to prove that Jesus was the Son of God. He has power not just over the things of the earth, but he even has power over the unseen realm. He's the Lord of Lords. That means that demon possession was a phenomenon limited to the age of the miraculous. It was limited to the age of miraculous. We just had a reference in Mark. Go to the end of Mark's Gospel, in Mark 16, in Mark chapter 16, Mark 16. So you got the Great Commission. He that believes and is baptized shall be saved. He that does not believe will be condemned. That's following, going to all the world, preach the gospel to every creature. Okay, but there's more to the Great Commission, because Jesus was talking to his apostles when he said that. Now, by implication, that commission still applies to us today, but not some of the signs, not the signs at all that attended, because that was part of the age without the written word, and they were still working on that. So here it comes, verse 17. These signs will follow those who believe. In my name they'll cast out demons. And then you have speaking with tongues, taking up serpents, drinking any deadly thing, it's not going to hurt them. Laying hands on the sick, they're going to recover. So the ability to deal with demons, to cast out demons, was part of, lumped with, those signs that attended first century proclaimers of God's truth. If we go to 1 Corinthians chapter 12, if we go up to 1 Corinthians chapter 12, and we drop down and look at verse 10. Yes, in verse 10 you have a number of those miracles in the first century. It says, to another the working of miracles, to another prophecy, another discerning of spirits, to different kinds of tongues, to another interpretation, to another the interpretation of tongues. And miracles is like a generic umbrella type term, that underneath that are a lot of different types of miracles, like casting out demons, healing the sick. All of that falls under that. In that same context, when you go to chapter 13, the very next chapter, in verses 8, 9, and 10, he was talking about how long those miracles were going to last. They ought not be placing their hope in miracles, because miracles aren't going to last. He said, love never fails, but whether there are prophecies, they will fail. Whether there are tongues, they'll cease. Whether there is knowledge, it will vanish away. Now, those were connected to, like in Mark 16 and 1 Corinthians 12:10, all of those were lumped together. Miracles in general, all kinds of miracles. We know in part, we prophesy in part, but when that which is perfect has come, then that which is in part will be done away. Meaning that even the ability of demons to possess, and then the subsequent ability of people of God to cast them out, that's all over with. That doesn't happen anymore. So, when you look at so-called modern demon possession, it's fake. I mean, I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings by saying that, but it's the truth, right? That when someone says there was a girl and she was demon possessed, no. Not today. Maybe back in the first century, but not today. It doesn't happen today. It can't happen today, because that part of the miraculous age, that's over with. It's done. And if you take a look, honestly, an honest look at the things that people call demon possession today, and how how the account goes, it's always very different than what the Bible teaches. In modern so-called demon possessions, where you have this exorcism, they're performing an exorcism, it's always performed privately. It's not in public. It's not done in public. But in the New Testament, it was always a public demonstration. Something was done publicly so that the public could see, because it was a means of proof of the claim that Jesus was the Son of God. In modern demon possessions, you see what they do. They try to chain him to a bed, in movies, but even the claims of it. Well, in the New Testament, when people were demon possessed, you couldn't bind them with chains. They were too strong for that. They couldn't be bound. In modern exorcisms / demon possessions, they're always blasphemous toward God. They curse God. They never did that in the Bible. They may not have agreed with God, but they recognized and acknowledged God's authority. They never cursed the Lord. So no one is performing miracles today, right? No one's walking on the water today. No one's raising the dead today. No one is turning water into wine today. No one's calming a raging storm today. No one is instantly healing an amputated ear like Malchus' ear. No one's extracting tax money out of a fish's mouth. It's just not happening today. And they were done in such a way in the first century, even the casting out of demons, it was done in such a way that when it happened, even the critics could not deny it. So it was beyond criticism. They may not have liked it, and obviously they were afraid of the power that was being lost and given to Jesus because of that, because he was doing something legitimate, and the people were like, you guys are a bunch of losers. You're fake. Your message is not right, but his message is true and being verified by miracles. And they may have been upset about that, but they couldn't deny the miracle that was happening. And I like some of these verses. In John chapter 11, if we go to the Gospel of John and we look at chapter 11, and if we drop down to verse 47, now this is after the resurrection of Lazarus, right? He's raised Lazarus from the grave. And you know what they couldn't do? They couldn't deny it. Lazarus was walking around. He was back with his family and friends. And so in verse 47, the chief priest and the Pharisees in John chapter 11 gathered a council and said, what shall we do? This man does he works many signs. Look what he's just done. What are we going to do about that? So they, obviously from a political and even from a spiritually, I guess, because it was connected to their politics, they were trying to deny what Jesus had done in the sense of saying, we've got to rob his glory somehow. But ultimately, when it came right down to it, they couldn't deny it. His critics couldn't do that. So miracles were beyond criticism. When they happened, people knew that they were miracles. And whatever's happening today, it's not a miracle. Right? There's a bunch of holes. It doesn't line up with Scripture. The Bible even says miracles were done away with. They ceased. They served their purpose. They ended when we have completed written revelation. That's what we were working toward in the first century. And the same thing this coming Sunday, we'll be taking a look at the book of Acts. And part of the things we're going to be talking about in the book of Acts is part of the evangelism is the confidence of Christians being able to point back to Jesus and how that can't be denied. That's what builds our confidence, and so we're going to be talking about those types of things, but couldn't deny it in the first century. So, demon possession, yeah, it's a scary thing. I mean, look at what the demons were doing to the people in the first century, about how they stunted them in their eyes and mouth and ears and all kinds of other things, and the poor boy who was epileptic, and it was basically demon possession, and the demon was trying to drown him in the water and throw him in the fire. That's terribly tragic. But all of those occasions are met with Jesus being able to cast them out. And later in the first century, under the apostles in the first century after Pentecost, they were doing the same things as a means of proof. But now that's over with. Now we have Scripture. The stories are still every bit as much true, every bit as powerful today. It's just different today because the miraculous age has come to an end. Okay, so here's what we're going to do the next time. When we open our study next time, we're going to talk about the nature and the character of demons. What were demons like? What's their nature? What kind of beings are they? And that'll move us into a final discussion on who are they? Are they fallen angels? Are they the disembodied spirits of wicked men? People who've gone into Tartarus and now able to come out. I don't know. But we're going to take a look at it and try to find out and formulate a pretty good conclusion. I think we have at least two really good options out of all the options that are out there. Hey, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Hope you're enjoying the study. Please let us know. Don't forget, subscribe if you're on YouTube. Give us a thumbs up if you're on Facebook. Like it, and then share it with your friends. And then we'd love to hear from you. God bless you. We hope to see you Sunday. And Lord willing, everybody's just safe and doing okay physically. We're praying for you, and you pray for us as well. I love you, and I'll catch you next time.